Okay, I'm back. This will have to be part two. My phone cuts off for 10 minutes. But anyway, I'd set up, I told y'all in the last portion that I set up here and the wind was out of here. And the bucket definitely come through here and it either bedded up here or continued on. So what I did about 10 o'clock is I got down, got my kayak, came over here and checked this camera. And about 7:30 that morning, if I remember right, 7:30 or 8, I had a picture of that non-typical buck heading that way. And so I was reasonably sure that he was bedding right here with a wind like that, knowing that this wind was going to shift out of this direction in the afternoon. Okay, so that I just was about as confident as I'm ever going to get that he was right here. So what I did was I went back, ate lunch, and got back in here early afternoon and set up in this small pocket of brush right here. And I set a camera right by a little rub and a licking branch or natural licking branch right here. And I climbed up and I started hunting. Sure enough, the wind shifted. And another thing I was thinking about here too, that you have to pay attention to thermals when you're hunting around water. I knew that this massive trees right here was pretty tall and it was going to cast a shadow along this part of the lake, and this part was going to cool off first. So I was reasonably sure that I was going to start seeing a pull into the lake like this. And with a wind like that, I assumed with this the cover and stuff along the edge that it was going to swirl a little bit and work its way out. I was right. When I started dropping the detectors, the milkweed, as the wind shifted, that's exactly what it was doing. It was being sucked out into the lake. I had the perfect wind, and he thought he had the wind in his advantage, and it turns out he didn't. Okay, so sure enough, about I think it's 4:30 in the afternoon, a doe, a smaller buck, and then him came right down this. There's a little dry area between the brush and the lake. The lake was down a little bit. He come walking right up there. The doe and fawn kind of worked past me. They got a little skittish and worked off here, and so he kind of hung up here for the longest time and stuff, but I was just patient, and about 15-20 minutes later he did walk in here to work this natural licking branch, and I had put some deer lure on there, kind of worked it up a little bit, and so he was working that. I shot him right here. The camera took a picture of the arrow impacting the side as he was turning. He ran right up here and died. But that's it. I mean, that's a strategy that I used to kill a buck. And, you know, originally I didn't know this buck existed. I scouted, I found some sign that looked promising. I put a mineral lick here to start with one camera. Got some pictures of a pretty decent buck that developed over June, and I started backtracking him until I determined that, you know, 80% of the time or whatever, he was coming from this direction. I just worked my way back. You know, if most of the pictures would have indicated that he was coming in here and I was getting nothing here, I could reasonably assume he's bedding here or here. Okay, so I just worked him back till I got right here where all the does were bedding, because I didn't want to mess all this up. That's the last camera I set, and I was getting just about every time he passed through this section here, he was going at least into here. And that's what made me set the camera up here to kind of record. And sure enough, the morning that I hunted over here, I got a picture, so I knew he was bedding here. So finding the buck, backtracking him up, and then using the camera intel the morning of the hunt to make my plan. I had never climbed a tree here. The tree I wound up getting in was like 5 or 6 foot tall. I cleared, and it was brushy. I mean, you could barely see the opening here. I cleared a hole to where I could just shoot to this licking branch. And sure enough, that's it worked out perfectly in this case. It don't always do that. And I realize not everyone has a lake to where you can go in with kayak, but you know, one of the things that I talk about with trail cameras is access is as important when you're using trail cameras to backtrack a buck as when you're going in to hunt. You have to think access. How am I going to get in here without alerting or spooking, you know, the majority of the deer? In a lot of public ground, you might have horse trails or walking trails or whatever. Use those. The deer are used to foot traffic and stuff here. So, you know, if that was the case in this property, you could come here and then work down to the edge and set your mineral lick or whatever, you know, initially, and then figure it out from there. But, you know, it does it takes a lot of thought where to set these cameras. And, you know, tracking a buck to his bed is, it's hit and miss. Sometimes it works perfectly like it did in this case. Other times it gives me a general idea where they're coming from, and I have to go off of that and hunt them down. And then other times it don't work at all. You know, the cameras just don't give me any kind of conclusive data that lets me know where they're coming from. Anyway, that's going to cover it for this one. Drop your comments down below on what you'd like to see in the next one. I'll probably focus on, you know, how I set up a mineral lick, where would I set up mineral licks, how do I set my camera up at mineral licks, the formula that I use to make my own mineral lick, which I believe is just as effective as any commercially available. It works. I mean, the bucks definitely find it and use it. So comment below, and we'll do that again when I get time to make the next video. Dave T1963 out.